So the Davante Adams trade rumors just got even more interesting today after he took to social media and possibly revealed his desired destination in a cryptic Instagram post. So we got to unpack all that, talk about the biggest injury news from around the league, the Patriots locker room being in complete disarray, Kirk Chain's lighting it up, as well as preview some of the biggest matchups of Week 5 right after. First up, the Falcons and Bucs kicked off Week 5 last night, playing in what was arguably the best Thursday night football game ever. Okay, maybe at least of the season for sure, but it was a barn burner, a banger, down to the wire, shootout, whatever description you want to use for a game that was exciting, use it, because it was, with Tampa holding a 24-17 lead at the break thanks to a pair of Mike Evans touchdowns. Tampa was up 30-27 with a little under 2 minutes to go when Kirk threw a pick on 4th and 15, and it looked like the game was a wrap. I mean, he walked off the field shaking his head, and I thought it was over. However, Atlanta's defense held strong, and a holding penalty on Tampa actually knocked them out of field goal range, so they punted the ball back to the Falcons, who had no timeouts remaining and a little over a minute to work with, trailing by 3. Well, Kirk activated Kirk Chain's mode and drove them down the field, setting up a 47-yard field goal that turned into a 52-yard field goal due to a delay of game on the Falcons. But it mattered not, because Younghoe Koo drilled it to send the game into overtime. Atlanta won the toss, getting the ball first, and on a crucial 3rd and 3, Kirk rifled one to Drake London, who picked up the ball but was shaken up after a nice hit to the ribs, to say the least, and he had to exit the game. KhaDarel Hodge then took his place, and on the very next play, Kirk found Hodge for what looked like it was going to be a short gain, but he made a man miss and raced through Tampa's secondary for the walk-off touchdown, an insane ending to a banger of a game as Atlanta moves to 3-2 and takes the first place lead in the NFC South over the Bucs, who are also 3-2 now, but Atlanta is 2-0 in the division. Kirk Chains was going freaking crazy in this game, by the way. 42 of 58 passes completed, 4 touchdowns, and a career-high 509 yards. This man is the only reason why my pick'ems didn't hit last night. I was 4 for 5. Shout out to Underdog Fantasy, the season-long partner of the channel, where code CBTH will get you a bonus pick'em in the lobby and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. You can see on the screen my pick'ems here for this weekend. If you want to match them, you can click the link in the description down below to get to those pick'ems. But back to this game, because Kirk Chains, with those 509 yards, set not only a career record, a career high, but also a franchise Falcons record. Drake London had one of the best games of his young career, catching 12 passes for 154 yards and a score in the first quarter. After the game, he was definitely feeling like Kirk Chains with a little "you like that" pep in his step.
You like that? I feel like Kirk Chains.
Darnell Mooney was balling out as well. He caught 9 passes for 105 yards and 2 scores, including a wild leaping grab in traffic. I couldn't believe that catch, by the way. I was absolutely shook. Not as shook as Hodge's game ender, but it was a great catch. Anyway, the hero of the game was definitely KhaDarel Hodge, speaking of the man who caught that game-winning touchdown, and it was cool to see the locker room go crazy for him after the game. Next up, we've got some injury news and updates to talk about as we head into the rest of these Week 5 games. First, the Chiefs placed wide receiver Rashee Rice on IR yesterday with his knee injury. But it's a bit of a weird situation, as we still don't fully know the extent of the injury. Immediately following the game last week, the team feared that he tore his ACL, yet we still don't have confirmation of a full ACL tear. I think if it was fully torn, you would have known, but they are going to do a procedure next week and get in there and kind of see what's going on. They will assess the damage during this explorative procedure and either repair what they find, leaving him out for the season if it's bad enough, or maybe need to make a minor repair, or possibly exit his knee with no repair, depending on, again, what is found. If that's the case, there is a chance Rice returns at some point later on this season, but for now, he's out for at least 4 weeks. Speaking of knees and ACLs, Dolphin star edge rusher Jalen Phillips sadly tore his ACL in Miami's loss to the Titans on Monday, and he'll be undergoing season-ending surgery. It's a big loss for the Dolphins defense, obviously, and a tough break for Phillips, who was coming off of a season-ending Achilles tear that he suffered last November. So back-to-back season enders for him. You really hate to see that. And even more ACL news, the Vikings are officially opening the 21-day practice window for tight end TJ Hockenson, who tore his ACL and MCL late in the season last year. The Vikings have a Week 6 bye, so he could potentially return for Week 7. Or if they want to play it safe, they could use the entire 21-day window to return and wait until Week 8. Either way, this is going to be a huge addition to the Vikings offense that's already been rolling with Sam Darnold at the helm, current favorite to win MVP or among the top favorites. They got Jordan Addison back as well last week after he missed a couple games with an ankle sprain, and he made an immediate impact. So yeah, a fully healthy Vikings offense is going to be scary for the rest of the league because their defense is also playing lights out. Then, Brian Daboll confirmed today that Malik Nabers will be out this week against the Seahawks as he suffered that concussion last Thursday against the Cowboys. There was hope that since they had 10 days in between games, he could return in time, but it looks like he'll aim to make his return Week 6 instead, which is a huge blow to the Giants' offense. I mean, this man was almost the entire offense. Someone else who's not expected to play on Sunday is Davante Adams. He has a hamstring injury that should heal up as soon as he's traded. I mean, Dianna Russini of The Athletic says the injury is real, but who really knows? Either way, Davante Adams officially requested a trade earlier this week after trade talks have been swirling around him since the last offseason. The Raiders had previously shut down any and all trade rumors up until recently when they were reportedly growing open to the idea of trading him and started gauging interest around the league. Several teams have emerged as potential suitors, and there's been some rumors that Davante Adams only wants to go to the Jets, but things got interesting today after Davante Adams took to social media and posted a picture of Edgar Allan Poe on his Instagram stories. Now, apparently, Edgar Allan Poe wrote a poem called The Raven, so people in the comments took this to mean Davante is on his way to Baltimore. After all, just a couple weeks ago, Davante publicly praised Lamar Jackson, saying that he changed the game and is the best ball carrier ever. However, moments after that initial Instagram story, he followed up by posting a quote from Edgar Allan Poe that said, "Believe nothing you hear and half of what you see." So honestly, I have no idea what to make of this. It's just another weird-ass cryptic post from a star player, and we could spend an eternity trying to figure it out. The Jets still make a lot of sense as he could reunite with Aaron Rodgers, and Davante on the Ravens would be pretty nasty, giving Lamar another weapon alongside Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry, Isaiah Likely, and the ghost of Mark Andrews. However, the problem teams are going to run into when trading for Davante is that not only will they have to give up draft capital to acquire him, but they'll need roughly $13 million to pay for his services this year and might even need to work out a new deal. Regardless, it's going to be a rather expensive move for a wideout who's about to turn 32 in December. He is still a top 10 receiver right now for what it's worth, and there will definitely be at least one team out there that's willing to bring him in and maybe even give him a new deal or cut him loose before the league new year for 2025. Now, on the subject of players being unhappy in their current situations, there seems to be a bit of contempt brewing out of New England. Listen to this. Evan Lazar, who is the host of a podcast called Catch 22, which is an in-house podcast produced by the team, went on quite a rant yesterday when describing the current state of the locker room and the disarray that they are in right now since they fell to 1-3.
But I was in that locker room after the game on Sunday. The defense is mad at the defense. The offense is mad at the offense. You have young receivers who are literally throwing tantrums on film. You're at the point now with 52 other guys in that locker room that all watch these two quarterbacks practice every single day, that all know that they drafted Drake May 3rd overall. And at what point in time does some of these guys say to themselves, why am I going out there and getting my butt kicked every single Sunday and Drake can't? With the quarterback who can't get me the football when we have the Ferrari back in the garage that can get me the football.
So yeah, if there's any truth to this, the Patriots are in an incredibly tough situation. Everyone and their mother knows that Jacoby Brissett is just a placeholder until they feel Drake May is ready to start. The problem is their offensive line is god-awful, and I don't know why you would want to throw Drake May out there to the Wolves and risk ruining his development by building bad habits that result from an O-line that is basically non-existent. If it's not bad habits, you could risk getting this man injured. According to PFF, the Patriots have the lowest graded O-line in the league, and they just allowed 21 pressures on 39 pass plays last week. On top of that, their starting center David Andrews was just placed on IR with a shoulder injury. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place right now, with players reportedly growing frustrated that Jacoby Brissett is still the starter. But again, the front office and coaching staff are hesitant, for good reason, to throw Drake May out there. So those are some of the biggest injury updates and news around the league. And with those out of the way, there are some exciting Week 5 matchups that are worth talking about. The 4-0 Vikings take on the 2-2 Jets in London on Sunday morning. Aaron Rodgers is dealing, per his own words on the Pat McAfee show, with some knee swelling. He's going to play, but will that affect him? That is something worth monitoring. Then the quarterback on the opposite side, he is playing against his former team that drafted him, as he's in the midst of a major career resurgence with the Vikings. Minnesota's offense is rolling right now. They're 4th in points per game, with Darnold leading the league in touchdown passes. But the Jets' defense is allowing the 5th fewest points per game, with one of the best secondaries in the league. Aaron Rodgers is very familiar with the Vikings, having played them twice a year when he was with the Packers, and they'll look to bounce back after a horrible offensive performance last week against the Broncos. Then, the Texans are hosting the Bills as Stephon Diggs looks to get some revenge against his former team. Both squads are 3-1 and are legit contenders in the AFC. So not only should this be an incredibly entertaining and competitive game, but it could go a long way towards playoff seeding once we get closer to the postseason. The Ravens are playing against the Bengals on the road, with Baltimore coming off 2 straight W's, including a blowout over the Bills, and the Bengals are fresh off their first win of the season against the Panthers. These AFC North rivalry games are always tough as hell, and I'm curious to see if the Ravens can stay hot and send the Bengals to 1-4, which would be awesome as a Chiefs fan, but pretty tough to overcome for Cincy as they try and claw their way back to playoff contention. Then the Cowboys and Steelers are playing in Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football, with the Cowboys trying to get back over 500 against a stingy Steelers team that's given up the 2nd fewest points in the league. They just took their first L against the Colts last weekend, and I want to see just how legit they are after starting out 3-0, and if Justin Fields can lead them to a bounce-back win in primetime. Next up, the Chiefs are hosting the Saints on Monday Night Football, with New Orleans coming off of 2 straight losses after starting out scorching hot and putting up 240 burgers in a row. They've cooled off quite a bit, averaging just 18 in their last 2 games, and they take on a tough KC defense that's carried the Chiefs to a 4-0 record. Mahomes and the offense have been struggling this year, as Mahomes has the 3rd most interceptions in the league with 5, and they've lost a ton of offensive firepower. Hollywood Brown, Isaiah Pacheco, and most recently, Rashee Rice, as I discussed earlier on in this video. Now, Travis Kelce did have a bounce-back game against the Chargers, 89 yards. You'll love to see that. So hopefully that trend continues for him, and maybe we also see another 50-plus yard touchdown from Xavier Worthy. I would sure like that. So those are some of the matchups I'm looking forward to most this week. You guys got to let me know your thoughts, games you're looking for, standout players, storylines, performances, all that good stuff in the comments down below. And with that, I'll see y'all next time.